Well, the highlight of my career, without question, has to be when I was at the Commanding General of 5th Signal Command and in charge of the signal forces going in to support the Dayton Peace Accord, Bosnian peace enforcement operations. The reason that was so critically important was the size and scale of the operation. And as a result of that, men, women, and children were being slaughtered in the street. And finally, the European nations, after the European Union decided that they couldn't bring peace, they asked NATO to intervene. And of course, as you know, with NATO, you're really talking about the United States playing a major role. And when you start talking about communications, the preponderance of NATO communications is US communications. So I had the opportunity to plan, engineer, and execute this enormous operation. So it was 37 nations that were involved. We had nations involved who had the most primitive and communications all the way up to space age technology with the United Kingdom and Germany and some of the other NATO allies that we had. And as a result of that, it took a tremendous amount of planning, took a tremendous amount of execution, and was satisfying in this context. When NATO went into there, the war had been raging for, as I said, more than a half dozen years. And people were dying at an incredible rate, 3,000–4,000 per week. And as a result of that, the killing stopped instantly when we arrived. So the question is, if you go to the Hebrew proverb, if you save one life, you save the world, because you never know which individual is going to be that individual who's going to be Albert Einstein or Jonas Salk or anyone who does something extraordinary. I like to believe that the Army, our great Army, if you will, intervened, and as a result, we were able to stop literally scores of thousands of people from dying from that time forward. So we brought peace. So that was the thing that makes me most proud. And CECOM was actually the pinnacle of my career. I enjoyed that probably more than any other assignment. Usually when you arrived at the command, you had to do a lot of fixing. You know, you determined what needed to be done, you made the assessment and started moving in that direction. So when I arrived, there was really nothing to fix. There was a lot to build upon. We had top-notch people, there was high morale, we had resources, we had an extraordinary global mission that directly influenced the operational readiness and the warfighting ability of the combatant commands around the world. So nothing could be better than that. And so I thought of my time at CECOM as really a fun time. Hard work, to be sure. But I had a legion of top-notch people assisting me do that. As you know, I used to tell people basically that they didn't work for me so much that they worked with me, and that a unit not only needs privates, but it needs generals. And as a result of that, I thought that there was a synergism to the whole process where the command just really rose to the challenge. And I thought that we were tremendously value added to the Army and significantly improved their combat capability. One of the most significant things that we did is sort of unheralded. In 1994, and so we had 47 email systems, none of which talked to each other, and only 2 talked out of the building. Give you some idea of what a kludge and mess this turned out to be. So they determined that they were wasting money, and they said the only way that we could straighten this out is to make it all a single unit under a single leader, and then try to do that. The upgrade was so significant because the Pentagon over the years had developed many single points of failure. They had tremendous security around the building, but there was one place in South Parking where every single wire, every single cable in the Pentagon traveled. So a bomb, not even really near the building, just over this one spot, would have completely taken the building down. All of that is only to say that had those things not been done, when the plane tragically came through and attacked the Pentagon at 9/11, the Pentagon would have been down hard for some indefinite period of time. And the national command and control structure, the ability of the Commander-in-Chief of the United States to be able to command and control our combatant forces and our nuclear forces would have been interdicted for some indefinite period of time. So to me, to be able to have put in a system that prevented that from occurring was the most significant thing, not only that I think I probably ever did or was involved in at 3 different levels, but at the same time, though, I think it added significantly to the security of our nation. And so every American benefited from that. And the system that's in place in the Pentagon today is that system. So when the plane went through, rather than have a single point of failure, we had alternate routes, alternate paths going so that the signals just turned around on themselves and went elsewhere. Why CECOM? That's the only question. And we put together an 87-chart briefing explaining in detail why it was necessary, the contribution that not only the CECOM had made to the Army, but in a larger context, what CECOM's contribution had been to the nation and what it had been historically, and why industry on its best day could not do what we were doing. I mentioned Tobyhanna, that it could return, that we took communications equipment in and stripped it to the bare metal and returned it to the Army brand new at 1/7 the cost that it was originally. I mentioned the fact that a project that we were doing with the Pentagon, that no other organization could do that at the way in which we had done it. I mentioned our forward support logistics representatives who were in every single division, down in the mud with the soldiers, teaching soldiers how to maintain equipment that they would not otherwise have known. I talked to him about the advanced technology demonstrations that our Research and Development Engineering Center was involved in, that we would take a combat commander who said, what about? Can we do? And we would take that and turn it into hardware and software and give them something that they could touch, that they could feel, that they could make a demonstration of and say, yeah, this will work in the Army if you produce it. And so as a result of that, we had so many of those kind of things that we were able to lay out for the Chief of Staff. And so eventually when General Campbell, who did a great job with the briefing, went back and told him that, the question went away and never came again. The reason I say that was the most significant thing, because the very survival of this magnificent command rested on that one decision. Had he decided that we were going to go out of existence, there would not be the CECOM that we have today. Was that life is not a destination so much as it's a journey, and as you proceed through, you have to enjoy it and smell the roses. Meaning that when you can be in Vietnam and in dirt and the dark and the mud and in combat, and at the same time, there were things that were enjoyable about that particular experience. You can be in Germany, and while you were working outrageously long hours because the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact were your foe, at the same time though, there was much about Germany that you could enjoy. And I don't think that I enjoyed that part of my career as much as I should have. And as later in life, I finally learned to do that. I learned to smell the roses at the same time, focusing on the things that I thought were essential, not only to make the command successful, but to make us a vital part of the defense of this country.